How you getting on? The reason I'm talking about Father Ted today is to bring in an Irish audience because most of my viewers are Americans. Anyways, it was shocking but at the same time hilarious to find out that Father Ted did an episode parodying a zombie movie. The movie in question is Night of the Living Dead, of course, as you can see by my thumbnail. Father Ted's answer to that groundbreaking zombie movie was Night of the Nearly Dead. And it replaces zombies with a crowd of middle-aged women who were obsessed with a TV presenter by the name of Owen McLove. I'll talk more about that later on. Father Ted is the definitive Irish sitcom. If you ask me, I can't even think of any other Irish sitcoms. As an Irishman, RTE2 was the home of the show and the main place I would watch it on, even though it was originally created for Channel 4 in the UK. There's so much I could tell you about Father Ted, but I'd be here all day if I was to tell you everything. So before we get into the episode, what I will tell you is...
Think, arse, girls!
I think that explains pretty much everything, but in case you're still in need of information, Father Ted follows 3 dysfunctional Roman Catholic priests who have been banished to Craggy Island, which basically summed up is an island off the west coast of Ireland surrounded by fields of very green grass, stone walls and rocky cliffs, hence the word craggy. I'll just introduce the priests for you. First we have Father Jack Hackett, whose main vocabulary consists of 4 words, the words you just heard a minute ago. One of those words was drink. He's actually said that word 139 times throughout the entire show, but there are some rare moments in which he switches up and adopts new words into his vocabulary.
Hairy Japanese bastards! How did that gobshite get on the television? I'm a happy camper! Knickers!
Yes, Father.
Then we have Father Dougal Maguire, who's a lovely lad, don't get me wrong, but unfortunately he doesn't know his arse from his elbow. And finally we have the main man himself, Father Ted. He's the only one who actually uses his brain, most of the time anyways. The reason he was exiled to Craggy Island was because he used church money to take a holiday. That surely wasn't one of his brightest moments. All of these priests live in the same house, but of course, how could they survive without a housekeeper to keep them company? Mrs. Doyle is also a nutcase, but I don't think that comes as any surprise to you after hearing about these lads.
Are you well? How are you? How's it going?
She's absolutely obsessed with pouring cups of tea for each of the fathers, along with trying to fatten them up by forcing cakes and sandwiches down their throats. All I have to say is you'd have to have some patience to deal with her, so fair play to those lads. Anyways, that's enough of me boring you to death by talking absolute rubbish. At long last we can finally get into Night of the Nearly Dead. We open up with a David Attenborough style wildlife commentary playing on the TV. It's as if he's narrating about a creature, only it's not a creature, it's Father Jack.
Arps!
This show isn't good enough for Dougal, so he switches it off and turns on Owen McLove's show instead.
Oh no, this Egypt.
Owen McLove sings a song about his lovely Mayo mammy that could almost make your ears bleed, and this poor old woman has to put up with it. I'll tell you one thing, she must have escaped middle-aged status, because she clearly doesn't worship Owen whatsoever. Most middle-aged women do. And that includes Mrs. Doyle. It's obvious that this fella is a parody of the Irish singer Daniel O'Donnell.
You had to write a poem about me, and the prize is that I call round to the winner's house for a lovely cup of tea.
Especially his unusually intimate relationship with fans.
God, can you imagine that? Oh, God.
No, I can't. I'd rather pour the feckin' tea all over myself. Mrs. Doyle doesn't win the competition, some other lady does.
And the winner is Mrs. O'Neill from Kildare.
But when Owen finishes the show up and calls it a day, Mrs. Doyle doesn't let the fact that she didn't win bring her down. But she still wants as much of Owen as she can get. So she does this.
I just go and listen to his latest album. He's brilliant.
But there will be another draw, so there's gonna be another winner. So for the second draw, Ted decides to write his own poem because he believes that Mrs. Doyle doesn't have a hope in winning. But it turns out his poem was actually shite compared to Mrs. Doyle's because... Let me translate that for you. She said that Owen McLove is coming to Craggy Island to have a cup of tea with her because she has won the competition.
The only thing I can think of that must have happened is that Mrs. Doyle's poem was better than yours.
You've cracked the case, Dougal. Jesus, Ted's nearly as bad as you now. We cut over to Mrs. Doyle, who's out shopping for some tea. Obviously, she's getting prepared for Owen McLove's visit. As she's searching for the perfect tea, a woman approaches her, and it looks like she's on a f***ing hoverboard or something, and asks her when Owen is coming to the house. When she finds out that it's on Sunday, she promises she won't tell anyone. But as we know, of course, they eventually do show up to the house and they act like a crowd of bloody zombies, so she's a lying bitch. As we can see by the fact that she has gone and phone called basically everyone on the face of Ireland. Owen McLove pulls up to the house.
What is it? Some kind of mental hospital?
No, it's a parochial house. This week's winner is the priest's housekeeper.
And straight off the bat, he's a self-entitled bastard.
So what's the story then? Do I have to walk to the door?
Yes.
Ah no, Owen, I'd say you're grand now. They'll all come out and have the cups of tea inside the car with you. When he comes inside the house, he doesn't even say hello to Father Ted and Dougal. Instead he says,
What about the thick looking? He's looking a bit weird.
I'm surprised someone as thick as Owen has a radar for other thick people. Then he says,
I smell wee. Where's that from?
and of course it's Father Jack who smells of piss. I can't believe it, he really is a creature.
Strange, short emissions.
Mrs. Doyle comes out with the tea, but then she knocks it all over and passes out. I bet if you're not Irish you think this is absurd. But believe it or not, Daniel O'Donnell does tend to have that effect on old people.
Wow! Daniel is here.
Anyways, the nearly dead have begun showing up to the house. It's hilarious how similar this is to the Night of the Living Dead movie. They've directly mimicked the arrival scene. Mrs. Doyle is finally awake and Owen is keeping a close eye on his watch because apparently he only agreed to spend 20 minutes in the house with them. He should know that as Irish people we spend a lot longer than 20 minutes to drink our cups of tea. He stands up to get out.
I want to get out. How do you get out?
When he walks out the door, he's greeted by a shite ton of middle-aged women. Once again, this directly mimics the Night of the Living Dead movie. Only if they get caught, they won't be catching the zombie virus. They'll be catching the menopause.
I don't want to catch the menopause. Go away, you big pile of dirty old biddies.
I have to say I do agree with him on one thing. While everyone is rushing back inside the house, Owen, being the thick bastard that he is, stands there like he has all the time in the world. And he's waited too long by the looks of things. But instead of getting trampled by the old women, he surprisingly makes it inside. But the doors are weak as brittle because the women manage to break their arms through them to give Owen a hug. Let's compare this with Night of the Living Dead for the crack. The only difference here is they haven't got any guns. All they've got is a pint of beer. So as we can see, Owen isn't going anywhere for the moment. He, just like the rest of them, have to wait it out while...
They lie in wait like wolves.
This is yet another one of those moments where Father Jack says something other than his usual girls, arse, drink, feck, whatever else he says. When Owen's assistant opens the window up to ask the women what they want, something is thrown inside, a letter saying, "Tell Owen we think he's lovely." Then Mrs. Doyle comes in with a surprise for Owen, a cake with a jumper baked into it. Owen's response is,
I'm not wearing a cake jumper. This is horrible. Yuck!
but knowing him, the bastard'll wear it like. But after they're done dossing, Father Ted and Dougal decide to use their brains a bit. They plan out how they're going to create a diversion to get rid of the women outside. Father Jack acts like he's about to pitch in with his own intellectually formulated plan. But all he has to say is,
Drink, fake, arse, girls.
I agree, you know, that's a great idea.
What do old women like?
Drink. Tea. Clearly, the women outside are so fed up of waiting, so they start banging on the window to get Ted's attention. To his surprise, they go on about the mass he conducted last Sunday rather than going on about their obsession for Owen, clearly attempting to bribe him to let them inside. And he does exactly that. He opens up the window and in they come inside the house.
Isn't he lovely? Oh!
Everyone races upstairs to get away from the women, who have now infested the house. Once again, another scene that makes an absolute mockery out of Night of the Living Dead. while Dougal and Owen get distracted and start playing a game of slapping each other's hands. They're interrupted by an ambush of middle-aged women. And now they're actually starting to sound like zombies. Surprisingly, Mrs. Doyle is the only one to actually put an end to this meddling behaviour, by telling the women to go back to their husbands. Unfortunately for the zombies in the Night of the Living Dead movie, it wasn't as easy as just going back home. They didn't stop until they had everyone killed, every last one of them. Anyways, Owen gets ready to head out the door and finally go home. But before he does that, he has something to tell us.
I have no willy.
Well, f***ing hell, that explains a lot. It explains everything, really. Owen does the nicest thing he's done all day. He gives Mrs. Doyle a kiss goodbye, but she once again passes out. And then we find out that I was right. Owen did actually wear the cake jumper. Owen's assistant invites Ted to one of the shows to take part in a quiz to win a bit of money. Fast forward to then when the quiz is going on, Owen asks him what Pope John Paul II's name was before he became Pope. But Ted hasn't a f***ing clue, so instead of answering the question, he stares down the barrel of the camera lens for what feels like eternity. And after 50 seconds of thinking, he says,
Jim.
And that right there is the end of the episode. Well, I do have to say one thing, having hundreds of middle-aged women invade my home would definitely be scarier than having zombies invade my home. Never mind Night of the Living Dead revolutionising the zombie concept, Father Ted did it better. Overall, that episode was hilarious. From the very moment I saw Owen McClove on that TV screen, I thought to myself, you know, wouldn't it be great if that bollocks got caught up in the middle of a zombie apocalypse? Now, unfortunately, that image in my mind didn't exactly align with what actually happened, but it was close enough to satisfy me. Even though the Night of the Living Dead parodies didn't show up until like halfway through the episode, they were executed perfectly. I reckon the first instance was when we were shown the women approaching the house slowly with the eerie music playing. Here's the Night of the Living Dead equivalent. If there was no laugh track in the background, and no Father Ted logo on the screen, I think that would have been really creepy. But you know what it kinda reminds me of? A scene from Shaun of the Dead. I can't pinpoint the exact one though. The second scene they mocked was when the zombies broke through the barricades and shoved their arms into the house to grab the survivors. Here, they broke through the door and reached in to give Owen an affectionate hug. That's genius comedy. And the third and final scene was the zombies actually breaking into the house to attack everyone inside. Here, the women also break in and swarm the house. But they give up after they're reminded that they should probably go home and take care of their husbands, rather than ridiculously obsess over a tosspot. Anyways, I better call it a day, but before I go, let me know down below if there are any other horror themed parody episodes from shows that you'd like to see me cover. Right, nice one, good luck.